listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Mutual Broadcast Network, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, and IPBN Radio Network. You can find out all about the X-Zone at xzoneradio.com and on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And, of course, I love getting your emails at at xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. We're going to be talking about ghosts this hour. Joining me this hour are Alan Slonaker and Brad Bradley. They are with CPRI. Now, Alan is a native of Richmond. He grew up in a Victorian-era house in the city's downtown. It was there that he had his first brushes with the paranormal. Alan was exposed to the city's history and lore at a very early age. That sparked a lifelong interest into history and the paranormal, which ultimately led him to join CPRI in 2007. Alan is a veteran police officer with nearly 20 years of service. He currently serves both as a criminal investigator and law enforcement trainer for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And joining us is Brad Bradley. He is the CPRI research coordinator. Brad began his working career as a chemist fresh out of college and continued as such until 2002. As a chemist, he developed project management and technology skills not only in the lab, but also in the audio-visual communications and distance learning world. These skills, along with Apollo root cause analysis and Six Sigma skills, became invaluable once he found a niche in researching the paranormal. Brad became a member of the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation in 2010, originally as their tech guru, later evolving into their research coordinator. Joining me now are Alan Slonaker and Brad Bradley. And gentlemen, welcome to the X Zone. And Alan, welcome back. Long time no talk.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So tell me, guys, how haunted is Virginia?
Well, that depends on what part of Virginia, but where I live in Richmond and where Alan lives in Richmond, it seems to be pretty haunted.
So what is the CPRI and what's its history, Alan?
Well, CPRI stands for the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation. We were formed in 2000 with the idea of a group that is a skeptical, science-minded organization that looks into claims of the paranormal.
How many members do you have?
I believe we have about 10 active members right now. Actually, it's closer to 20 now. Is it 20? Yeah, we have 10 that are full investigators, and we have another 10 that are considered researchers.
Oh, wow. And how many of the organization will actually go out on a case?
That's going to vary depending on the nature of the case. Just as recently as this Saturday, we worked a case that involved a warehouse. Yeah, it was 4 stories and several thousand square feet. We had a team of about, Brad, what was it? How many we had Saturday? We had 10 there Saturday. 10, and we probably could have used 2 or 3 times that many.
Wow.
So it's going to depend on the space and the nature of the investigation. Private residence could be as few as 2 to 4 of us, but we're always going to go out in pairs at a minimum.
All right, gentlemen, please stand by. We have to take our first small break here. Exonation Alan Slonaker is the Regional Director for Central Virginia of CPRI, and Brad Bradley is the CPRI Research Coordinator. Now, they can be found at virginiaghosts.com. That's www.virginiaghosts.com. And on Facebook, facebook.com/VACPRI. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We're here Monday through Friday from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. Eastern, and then the show is repeated in its entirety the following 1 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the morning. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, continues on the other side of this break as we continue looking into the strange, the weird, the bizarre. And here on this show, the bizarre is more normal than you would ever imagine. We'll be back. Don't go away. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wiecka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Wilda Wiecka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, here in the X Zone as we investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology and all subject matter in between. Alan Slonaker and Brad Bradley are our special guests of this hour. And let me see. You guys say your group is a science-based one. What does that mean, and how do you make sure everyone follows the same protocols, Alan?
Well, we do operate off of set protocols. These are set by our organization. When I say science-based, that means we start with a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We hope to formulate a hypothesis, conduct experiments, and determine whether our hypothesis was valid or not.
And I'm sure your training as a law enforcement officer certainly comes in handy while doing an investigation, making sure that the proper protocols for securing and maintaining the integrity of any evidence is followed to the strictest standards.
That's correct. And I mean, Brad is certainly much more technically adept than I am.
Mm-hmm.
But 20 years almost in law enforcement, I think, provides a lot of skills in dealing with people, dealing with witnesses, being able to discern statements and read between the lines if necessary.
And Brad, where do you come in, and what are your functions during the scientific aspect of the investigation?
Well, one thing that the thing that I tend to do, I tend to organize quite a bit of when we have these large-scale investigations at historic sites and or at other locations. I organize the investigations and make sure everybody does what they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. Make sure everybody's trained. We have an online learning management system that provides a lot of training, which allows our folks to to pretty much handle the normal functions in the investigation.
What kind of equipment would you use on a typical investigation, Alan?
Well, we have, typically, we're always going to gather audio and video in the hopes that that we're able to capture something like some kind of evidence, either photographically or videographically or audibly. But the thing that makes us different than a lot of other folks out there is we'll also gather a lot of environmental data using different environmental sensors, and we try to correlate all that environmental data with what we capture either audibly or on video or photographically. And if we can do that, then we can actually prove that something actually happened at that point.
Bradley, is there any way of using your chemistry backing in order to try and secure some sort of evidence of the ghost?
Actually, yes. A lot of the environmental sensors that we tend to use, I've used those for years when I was a chemist for the Dow Chemical Corporation, and we also are constantly looking for new ways to gather data, especially environmentally or physically from the ground or what have you. And then what we tend to do is we'll design an experiment. We're heavy on the experimental design, and we design the experiment, and then once we figure out what data we need to collect with the experiment, we find the equipment to gather that data. And then after we gather the data, then we can do the analysis and go through the whole conclusion stage and be done with it. But in regards to the chemistry side of things, I've gotten to the point where I really want to do some gas chromatography, but coming up with that equipment is kind of hard to do.
Is it expensive or just out of reach?
Expensive.
And what advantage would this equipment give you as a researcher, a scientific researcher?
Well, we typically, especially at a place called Bacon's Castle in Surrey, Virginia, we get a lot of smells. And these smells, if you can smell something, there has to be a chemical agent in the air for you to be able to smell it. So I would like to be able to analyze that chemical agent using gas chromatography, which will essentially pull in a gas sample and separate it on a column so we know its individual components, and then we can tell what it is at the other end.
And I guess there's no place where you can just rent this equipment, huh?
No. That's kind of hard. Even rental is beyond my price range.
Really, huh?
Yeah.
Where has been the most intriguing place that you and the group have investigated, Alan?
I would certainly say that, and I guess every member is going to give you potentially a different answer, but I would say Bacon's Castle is that one continues to be intriguing. Bucko Plantation, which is a 18th century plantation house located actually only about 10 minutes from where I live. That one has been particularly intriguing because of the nature of the phenomena. But what we're trying to do is take places like that, and you'll hear us talk about Bacon's Castle, Tuckahoe Plantation, just as a couple examples of places that we're treating as like paranormal preserves, for lack of a better way to put it.
Well, what is the history
that we can return to over time and try to collect data? Do we get different data? Do we get data that correlates to things we've gotten in the past? And hopefully, because it's over time, we can show patterns.
Now, what is the history of Bacon Castle, and why is it so haunted?
You want me to take that, Alan?
Was built in the early 1600s. Brad, was it? Do you remember the original family?
Well, it was built in 1665 by a family, by a fellow by the name of Arthur Allen. He was a friend of the royal governor in Virginia at the time, and the reason it's called Bacon's Castle is because the Bacon's Rebellion that occurred in the 1670s. The rebels came in and occupied this location, Bacon's Castle location, and pretty much tore it up, and then ran off Arthur Allen. He went to live on the Eastern Shore, and they stayed there until the rebellion was put down by the Royal Marines. And that also, beyond that, there's history there of people. There's been duels fought on the property. The Union Army ended up over there, as well as the Confederate Army, just like everywhere else in Virginia. There's been plenty of family death. Like if you look at it, back in the day, there was no such thing as a funeral home, so people would just die at their house. They would lie in state at their house, and then they would be buried out in the backyard. And that's essentially what happened here.
How many graves are there at Bacon's Castle?
Well, there's only 4 that we know of. Supposedly, there's supposed to be some more, but they can't find them because they're not even sure where the Allens are buried. So they're still looking for that stuff and conducting archaeological surveys. But the 4 that they know are from the Hankins family, and that's back during the Civil War time frame.
The house had an addition that was put on it in 1854. But the thing is that it was continuously occupied from the time it was built in 1665 all the way through the early 1980s. It was occupied as a private home.
Wow.
And and that house can provide us with an opportunity to conduct true laboratory experiments too, because it's consistent activity of the same type.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you keep going back and you keep on doing investigations, what are the different results you're hoping to find?
Well, the one thing that we're really trying to do is, if you can reproduce data from one time to the next, that proves the data is accurate, and that you can continue on that line of research. What we're trying to do right now is we've figured out that there is an environmental effect when there's a manifestation, whether it's audible or visible, and we know that happens. And we also know it's very localized to the point where that manifestation occurs, within like 3 or 4 feet. Mm-hmm. And if we can somehow get our environmental sensors right there, we can actually we might be able to come up with enough data to possibly even predict when something's going to happen.
So what is the ultimate goal when investigating the paranormal?
I think that you have a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals that are out there conducting quote unquote paranormal investigations.
Yeah.
I think CPRI is unique in a lot of ways in that we are taking a serious scientific approach with a traditional investigative model. Mm-hmm. But we are a university. We aren't a bunch of PhDs. We're a college.
Alan, we're having problems hearing you, Alan.
And hopefully, the data that we collect, if we can show these patterns, if we can potentially get to where we can predict phenomena, that maybe, just maybe, this gets the attention of the mainstream scientific community. Because, at least in my opinion, something is going on. The phenomena exists. What it is comprised of, we simply don't know. Right?
All right, stand by. We've got to take our news break. Alan, we were losing you at the end of your explanation there. So we'll try and figure out how we can hear you a lot clearer and a lot better. Bradley, please stand by. Alan, stand by. Exonation, we're talking about ghosts in Virginia this hour. www.virginiaghost.com and on Facebook /VACPRI. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerrean intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerrean Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerrean Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com. Exonation, Alan Slonaker and Brad Bradley are special guests. They are investigators with the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation on the web, www.virginiaghost.com, and on Facebook, /VACPRI. I'm going to toss this question to you, Brad. Why do you think that mainstream science has not entered the investigation into the paranormal as of yet?
Well, being part of mainstream science as long as I was, there seems to be a problem with it's like a stigma. If you early on, back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the paranormal research kind of thing was a big deal. All the science people were going after it, and a lot of people wanted to know what was going on. But then, because a few charlatans, I guess, got involved and got caught up in it, and everybody thought it was a load of hooey after that. And you didn't want to you couldn't be caught dead, literally, dealing with the paranormal research end of things. Because if you did, it was suicide for your research grants and what have you. So everybody steers away from it. However, you do have some bastions of academia that still do research in this. There's a big proportion of it in the United Kingdom with ASSAP over there. The University of Virginia has the Division of Perceptual Studies. But that's the only university within the United States that does true paranormal research at the academic level. You used to have the Rhine folks at Duke, and then Duke gave it up, and so the Rhine folks had to split off on their own. So, hopefully that if we can go and prove that there's some kind of physical thing going on here, that it's something that's measurable and it's consistently measurable, then we might be able to get the interest of some of the academic science folks again.
So the interest is built up, academia gets involved. How do you see that this is going to help mankind, or what is the ultimate goal? I understand the scientific aspirations. I understand the significance of the scientific community getting involved, but what is going to be the final objective? To prove there's life after death?
Well, I'm not sure. Basically, first thing we have to do is we have to prove that something's happening. Mm-hmm. Then we have to prove how that's happening. Then once we get to that point, then we can move on to the more spiritual sense. Is there life after death? That kind of thing. Because once we figure out the how, we may be able to figure out some way to communicate further into the darker realms or what have you. But the first things first, though, we can't jump way ahead like that.
Based on your investigations, Alan, what are you finding so far? What is some of the evidence that you and your group have discovered based on the scientific method that you use in your investigations?
I think what we're finding is that sounds are very commonplace in a lot of these locations. Light anomalies are another. I've been doing this for 10 years almost. Yeah. And I can say that I've seen an apparition maybe twice. The bulk of the stuff that we encounter is auditory. We do have the smells, like in the case of Bacon's Castle. Tuckahoe Plantation yields an awful lot of light anomalies. The bulk of the activity is on the exterior, on the grounds. And of course, when there's light, say, in some of these light anomalies, light is obviously energy. Energy is coming from somewhere. What is this? We don't know. Another interesting thing that came up, and I think this came up just the other night when we were conducting that investigation in the warehouse, is sound. And we're still analyzing data from that particular investigation, and this has also come up in past investigations. We'll have an investigator that hears a sound. They'll be standing in one place. They'll hear a sound, say footsteps, for example.
Right.
And that sound is very pronounced, audible, clearly to the naked ear. But another investigator who is standing, say, opposite of them, 20 feet away, 30 feet away, what have you, may not hear that sound. As if there's a cone of sound that is directed towards one particular recipient.
But isn't that the same case with those who are seeing apparitions? They can be in the room with multiple witnesses, and only a certain percentage of the witnesses will actually see the apparition.
That happens.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would necessarily be caused by the same thing. You get into some different issues there. I mean, even in a law enforcement setting, you may have 20 witnesses that supposedly should have seen the same thing, and you may find that you get 20 different opinions of what happened, to include, I saw nothing.
These sounds that you hear, would they be recordable on as EVPs as well?
Yes, sir.
So how do we explain the fact that one person heard it, somebody 30 feet away did not hear it, but it was recorded on a recording device?
I don't know that we yet have an explanation for that.
Well, we don't forget that we found that there's an environmental effect that's very localized of a manifestation, which could be audible. And depending on the point in the room where that audible manifestation occurs, maybe if you're in close enough proximity to it, you're going to hear it because, you got to think, sound, in order for us to hear it, there has to be a vibration. And there has to be a movement of air, and that's an environmental effect, and that seems to be more localized, so that may have something to do with it.
Even if a person's standing 30 feet away?
Well, it's hard. If the person's standing 30 feet away, then they don't hear it, and then somebody happens to be closer to where the actual manifestation occurs, and they do hear it, then that's a possibility. How
do we explain the smells? Can we explain the smells?
Well, that's why we need to do some serious chemical type experimentation. Getting back into my old school ways,
right.
Trying to analyze the atmosphere when the actual smell occurs, and then we can once we figure out what that smell really is, then we can possibly determine the how from that.
All right, let's say that your investigation leads to a scientific community coming up and investigating the paranormal. The paranormal is under investigation. Some headway is being made. How do you think that this will affect the different religious philosophies or the religious beliefs of individuals?
Wow. I haven't really thought about that, but if you do, just to extrapolate on what you said, if we find out through this scientific research and investigation that there is something after death, then that's going to play right into several religions, and including even Christianity for that matter. It's going to play right into those religions that hey, there is a better place to go after you leave this world, kind of thing.
But if there's a better place to leave, if there's a better place to go after you leave this world, why in the name of heaven are these spirits hanging around here?
Well, there may be a problem. We don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, you've always heard of purgatory. Maybe this is purgatory.
I believe that hell is here on Earth.
That's just a guess.
No, but what I mean...
I think the bigger effect is going to be not just that, but on the physics community. My personal opinion is that a lot of this, were it to get the level of investigation and resources that, say, for example, the mainstream scientific community could possibly bring to bear on this, I think we're going to find a lot of this ties to physics. And the more we understand this, the more we understand the nature of the physical universe, not just the spiritual.
Okay, let's get back to the part where these spirits are here, for purgatory, whatever the reason is. The fact that paranormal investigators seem to go out and prod the spirits, which for all, for every example I've ever heard is a deceased person. Are we not disrespecting the dead?
For us, we're more passive.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go out and provoke or prod or anything like that. We collect information as we go just go about our business.
Right.
And I don't agree with the prodding and exactly what you described for the very reason that you were just presented.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the passive. We tend to gather a lot of passive data, but we also talk among ourselves when we're actually making an excursion into the location. And as we talk among ourselves, a lot of times as we talk among ourselves, that's when we pick up EVPs or other audible type things. And that right there, it's almost like whatever's there would rather interact with somebody, like they need company or something like that, versus us going in going, hey, why don't you talk to us?
Right.
Why don't you slam that door? That kind of thing. I don't agree with that at all.
If we do engage or try to directly address something in a location, it's virtually always in a conversational manner.
That's good to know because over the years, Alan, there have been so many of these so-called paranormal investigators who have come out of the woodwork because they find it a thrill rush, an adrenaline rush, to go into a house that is supposedly haunted and to do what they call an investigation. And as I see it, they're not investigating. They're just having a joyride at the expense of the dead. Now, there's a lot of reality TV shows on these days. And as a professional investigator, Alan and Bradley, do these TV shows that are supposed to be reality shows, are they an asset to real investigators like yourselves, or are they a hindrance?
Hindrance.
I would tend to agree that it's a hindrance as well. It's something that I think makes it harder to get the attention of the scientific community. It makes it harder to get intelligent, interested people into the field, focusing on the problem of what is this phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it certainly keeps the public interested, but it's entertainment, and it's separate and apart from what we actually do.
During your investigations, Brad, have you come across anything that listeners or viewers might relate to as demonic?
Well, I mean, I can't prove something like that's demonic, but I run into we've all run into some things that meet the definition that most demonologists have regarding something of that nature. We've run into things that interact with us, and I actually followed some of us home.
Wow.
That kind of thing. But I can't really speak to whether it's truly demonic or not.
Alan, have any of your members ever been pushed or physically assaulted during an investigation?
I don't believe that we've had, that I'm aware of, anybody that was assaulted. We have certainly had people touched, maybe a little bit of a shove here and there, but nothing that's been particularly dangerous. Most of the time it's a touch. One of our members reported that just the other night when we were out, again, this warehouse investigation, reported being touched.
I had
it wasn't something that was hostile.
Well, I had my headlamp, flipped back on my head during that whole investigation, and a fellow, one of our other members, a retired police officer, was standing there and got his hat bumped while he was just standing there in our actual headquarters, away from the main part of the factory. So, we do get touched on occasion.
Wow.
Doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it's pretty neat.
Do you think that these ghosts, these spirits, would purposely hurt someone?
I've never seen that.
I've never seen that either.
No.
I mean, if you think about, and again, we're getting into the theoretical and the spiritual,
Sure.
but if you think about if you were a good person in life and your consciousness remains unchanged after death, are you still going to be a good person?
Gotcha.
If you're a bad person, and when you die, are you still a bad person? So, doesn't, we've run across intelligences that what I think to be intelligent, that are good and maybe not so good.
All right, gentlemen, please stand by. We've got to take our final break for this hour. X-Zone Nation, our two guests tonight, Alan Slonaker, he is the Regional Director for Central Virginia, and Brad Bradley, who is the Research Coordinator of the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation. Their website is www.virginiaghosts.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/VACPRI. And we'll all be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, for all of you who are listening to the show, if you go to www.xzonetv.com, you can watch Season 1. That's the 2015 season of the X-Zone TV show with our compliments. And I'd love to get your feedback. Send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. I am Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston.
From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com. Exonation, Alan Slonaker and Brad Bradley are our special guests. So they are with the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation. As I said, their website is virginiaghosts.com and on Facebook /VACPRI. Gentlemen, always great talking to you, Alan. I've had the pleasure of having you on the show before. Bradley, don't be a stranger.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your time with both of us. There are so many groups out there, as we discussed in the previous segment. If somebody is listening to us tonight anywhere and they believe they have a problem, a spiritual problem or a phenomena that they can't understand, what is the best way for them to make sure that they are getting a legitimate paranormal team and not one of these TV groupies?
First of all, I would say do your homework. Most all of these groups have websites.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at what's on it. Are you seeing a lot of things on the website that are spooky, horror-related type stuff, or are you reading something that's much more science or traditionally investigative-oriented? If two things that would alarm me the fastest, if when I called and they immediately told me I had a ghost in my house before anybody actually showed up, that should be a red flag. The other one is if they say they're going to charge you for their services.
You mean there are still people out there who actually charge other people?
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unfortunately. Those should be giant red flags.
Is it legal to charge for that?
Well, you can charge for anything. Yeah, I mean, and actually, I think in some areas there are ordinances that prohibit you to be an actual, what's considered a private investigator without having a license and that kind of thing. But there are people that get around it, and what they do is they just say they're selling an entertainment service or something like that. So.
Unbelievable. Listen, we've got about 60 seconds left. What are your words, final thoughts for tonight, guys, for the Exonation?
Well, I'd like to say that if anybody out there thinks that they might be having an issue, they can always contact us at the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation, and our website and our Facebook page have been given out several times. So just give us a shout.
Wow. That is super. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Great pleasure. Alan, take care of yourself out there, my friend. As a law enforcement officer, we appreciate the hard work that you guys face each and every day.
Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself. And Bradley, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your expertise when it comes to the scientific side of paranormal investigations. Until the next time, guys, take care of each other. And if you come across anything, and I mean anything that you think would be worthy to share with the Exonation, get a hold of me and we'll get you on air as soon as we can.
Yes, sir.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys. Have a nice evening.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Exonation, I'll be back tomorrow night. Wow. Where did the time go, eh? Time just flies sometimes when you're having fun. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock as once again we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So until tomorrow night, my friends, as I say, always take care of each other. Be good. And if you can help out by giving a little extra dip in the pocket into the little boxes that help out so many, or if you can share some food or some clothing you don't use, I'm sure it'd be appreciated. But until tomorrow, Take care of yourself. Have a nice evening, and always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night now.